And just a quick reminder for those joining online, just to keep your camera and audio on, and disclose if you have anyone, any other adults in the room with you.
I think we have a problem.
Do you want to start the meeting, Vice Chair Bassi?
I'll start the meeting with the introduction. I'll be chairing the meeting until Ron comes. And then we'll start with introductions.
One moment, let me just fix an audio issue.
Yeah. Angela Conti, Transit Paratransit Coordinating Committee.
Mark Hale, BIA.
Eris Weaver, Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition.
Mark Soylan, District 2.
Riggs Locka, Sonoma County Wine Grape Growers.
Brian Lang, representing District 4.
Tom Conlon, representing the Sonoma County Conservation Coalition.
And the online guys.
Sherry Glazer, North Bay Electric Auto Association. Nobody's in the lanai with me.
Thank you.
Was he
Do you want
bragging?
to introduce yourself? I think.
Yeah, it's Chris Barney, SCTCA online as well.
Okay. Do you hear us? Rick, do you hear us? We cannot hear you. You are muted.
Go ahead and introduce yourself. Rick.
Okay, I'm Musa Abbasi, representing the chamber. The chamber.
Okay.
And
Sorry, everyone. I was on, I guess, the wrong setting. Stephanie Elliott, District 5.
okay, thank you. Any public comments on items not on the agenda? I'm sorry, we'll continue the introductions there.
Shauna Gauze, Sonoma County Transportation and Climate Authorities.
Carmen Rodriguez, Sonoma County Public Infrastructure.
Hunter McLaughlin, Sonoma County Public Infrastructure.
Chris Cohn, SCTCA.
Adam Garcia, SCTCA.
Steph Britt, SCTCA.
Dana Teray, SCTCA.
And Brenton Hare, SCTCA.
And Ross Clendon, SCTCA.
Okay. We are done with the introductions and public comments on items not on the agenda. I see none. We'll move to item 3, the minutes, the meeting minutes. And I'll give it back to the minutes.
Traffic in Sonoma County sucks. Thanks.
If traffic means too many cars, the solution to traffic is get people out of cars.
Then I would have really been late riding a bike from Hildon. That's a sight you don't want to see. Where are we? Sorry.
The minutes.
Yeah, good afternoon, members. Just looking to see if there's any adjustments to the minutes. From the April meeting, I did want to just make it clear that we did incorporate the adjustments from last time, and they are uploaded onto the site. I know we always say we're going to, and we did, in case anyone checked. So please let me know if there's any adjustments to the meeting minutes this time.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Okay. You had a comment or a second?
Yeah, I have an adjustment.
I'll second.
Okay, second. So now we can get into the, go ahead.
I was left off of attendance at one of the meetings. I think you found that one.
Yep, we'll remedy that.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Any other changes, errors, omissions? Good to go. Call for the question. All those in favor of the minutes as presented? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
You have to have a roll call.
Gotta be. a
Oh,
roll
that's
call
right.
vote.
Roll call. You want to do it? Or?
I'll do it. And can you also let me know who the first and the second was? Can you say their names, please?
Melissa was the first, I think.
Brian.
Brian was the second.
Who was the second? Brian.
Brian Lane.
Okay. Tim Zaire. Mark Soyland. Is
Present.
that a yes?
Yes.
Tom Banning. Not present. Brian Ling.
Yes.
Stephanie Elliott.
Yes.
Mark Hale.
Abstain. I wasn't here.
John Bly.
Present and yes.
Rick Lutman.
Aye.
Is that a yes or a no? Yes.
Yes.
Sorry. Let's see. Jerry Glazer.
Yes.
Carol Taylor. Musa Abbasi.
Yes.
Steve Bertolo.
Yes.
Dennis Harder. Kathleen Cortez. Eris Weaver.
Yes.
Tom Conlon.
Yes.
David Harris.
We're voting on the minutes of last month, David.
I'll come back to him. Riggs Loca.
Yes.
Jeff Blakesley. Angela Conti.
Yes.
And then David Harris.
Yep.
Okay. That's everybody. Roll call.
Okay, thank you. We're on to motion carries, so we're on to measure items. The Go Sonoma project presentation, and that is public infrastructure report. Shauna, you are up. Hi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, members.
Thank you.
I'm just here to introduce, as you heard, Hunter and his colleague are with us today to give a presentation on the Go Sonoma projects that are with the County of Infrastructure and Public Works. So with that, I will invite Hunter up to give his presentation.
Hi, Hunter.
Hello, Hunter McLaughlin, Sonoma County Public Infrastructure. This is Carmen Rodriguez. Thank you. So Hunter McLaughlin, Sonoma County Public Infrastructure. Thank you guys for having us. And so we'd like to give you guys an update on the funding projects that have funding from Go Sonoma as well as Measure M. So let's see if we can pull up the presentation.
All right.
This is Carmen Rodriguez.
Hi, Carmen.
In the design group of Sonoma Public Infrastructure as well. Oh, you're good. Okay, yeah.
Mine would be better to be in front of them.
We had it in front. People didn't like it there, so
Okay.
up to you.
We can refer to it over here if people don't mind us looking over there.
What are your alternatives?
Yeah.
You can always come up here.
That's true.
Yeah, there's a mic right here if you'd like, if that's easier.
Okay.
Wherever you would like to go.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
Is it over there? Okay. We'll go over here.
Both of them up there.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll go over where my name tag is.
Thank you, guys. Does this work?
It should.
It should? Okay. I can see it. Let's give it a try. Here we go. So an overview. So we have projects in the Forestville area and Airport Boulevard. We have Pengrove improvements, and then Arnold Drive. We also have a project. Our first area, Forestville area improvements, we have on Mirabel Road. The plan is to add class 2 buffered bike lanes from Highway 116 to River Road. As well, there's going to be a multi-use pathway from Highway 116 to Davis Juicy Road that goes just past the Forestville Youth Park. The project will also include crosswalks and pedestrian safety improvements. And then here is a cross section for the portion where the multi-use pathway is. So the project is currently working on design, and we're entering the right-of-way phase. Right now, we are working with PG&E. About 20 poles have to be relocated, and so PG&E is working on that. And we started the coordination with them on that work, and it's planned to go to construction next summer. Project has Go Sonoma funding as well as Measure M funds, along with funds from the county. And then the construction is funded for the portion from Highway 116 to Davis Juicy Road, but we need additional funds for the construction from Davis Juicy Road to River Road for the bike lane portion, the Class 1 trail. Which is a Sonoma County Regional Parks project is funded. I believe there was an update on that portion of it separately, but the projects are being worked on together in one design contract and anticipated, and they will be constructed together and put out to bid together.
Do you want questions on each piece or wait until you've done all the presentation and then the end?
You can ask questions, I guess, on each segment while we're on it, I think, if that makes the most sense.
So, why not Class 1 all the way?
There is a very steep embankment. I think the plan is to ultimately have some kind of Class 1 all the way. But that's the portion that Parks applied for in the Cycle 1 call for projects. So I think that they might ultimately come back and ask for funding for that. But
Okay, so that's their project.
That's Regional Parks, correct.
I have a question.
Yeah,
How do you plan to fund, the rest of the project? There is $2 million, I believe, to be funded.
Correct. So we applied for additional funding as part of the Cycle 2 call for projects through SCTCA. So we're looking for more funding as part of that call for projects.
So the county is not planning to add more money?
We'll add as much as we can, but we have limited funds that we're able to, we have many different projects. And so we'll add as much as we can, but we're looking for funding from different grant sources.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm curious how you work with the city of Forestville when you put something like this together, especially around the funding and their.
So it's unincorporated, so it's a county jurisdiction. We've had several community meetings where we work with the Chamber of Commerce or residents to kind of do outreach and kind of get their input on the different projects.
So you do get input.
Yes.
And how do you establish how much funding goes? Is it just based on the project itself, or the community can also fund part of it and expect more?
I don't think there's any group in Forestville that really provides funding for projects. So we just go and look for funding from grant sources. So one of those is Measure M and Go Sonoma, or all the different funding that's available through Cycle 1 or Cycle 2 through SCTCA.
If there was a group, they would be able to participate and actually encourage more funding?
I mean, if they are, want to pursue that and look for additional funding for the project, we'd be all for that. So that's definitely an option if they wanted to do that. But that's a lot of work to take on. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Tom?
I have a question. Rick Lutman. I understand there's some opposition to this project from Forestville residents. I wonder if you're aware of that and if you're planning to take any action about it.
There has been concerns about speeds on Mirabel Road. So we actually did a study along the corridor to look for ways that can improve safety for pedestrians and motorists and bicyclists along the corridor. So that study should be released soon, and we'll approach the community with the different options that were kind of discovered or as part of that and recommended as part of that study. So yeah, we've been working with them and trying to find ways that will help make this the best project for the community.
Okay, thank you.
Tom, and then Jerry.
Thank you. Just to follow up on Moose's question about funding, the column in your table that said local funds, those are the county.
Correct.
It's quite a substantial proportion, as I noticed to date, to just allay his concern. I just wanted to commend you for working with regional parks on line class 1 and class 2 in coordination. Appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we're trying to find ways to coordinate with other departments and agencies to streamline.
My question is a simple
Jerry,
one. Yeah, do you wait till you secure the additional 2.2 before you start the work, or you just start the work and stop when you run out of money?
I guess that I think we can easily do it either way. I think we can easily construct the first portion of it, and that would be a benefit to the community in and of itself. And so I don't think we would necessarily wait to get all the funding, and if it all can come together, then great. We're designing the whole thing all in one, so that once we do get the funding, we can kind of just go directly to construction. So we're getting all the right of way and having all the designs and doing all the environmental for the whole section. Yeah, we haven't determined that necessarily, but we'll look at seeing what the best option are once we get closer to construction.
Do you have a approximate estimate and timeline of when this might go to bid?
We're hoping next summer is when it's we're hoping to go to construction. It's when it's scheduled to, but it's dependent on PG&E when they're able to relocate the poles and when we're able to secure all the right of way that we need. And we're working on both of those right now.
I might have missed it. I think you might have it on there. You've got your guess is the cost.
Correct.
It's on your chart. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Seeing none, let's go on to your next project.
Sounds good. So on Airport Boulevard, we've had a number of projects over the past few decades. And so we've had phases 1, 3, 2, and 5. So the main focus, though, has been the Airport Boulevard corridor. So the interchange was one of the projects. And then east of the interchange, east of Highway 101, there was signal improvements and widening, and then there were improvements directly west of the interchange. And so the last two segments on Airport Boulevard are phase 1 and phase 1C and phase 1D. So phase 1C is from Regional Parkway to Laughlin Road. And then we have another project, which is phase 1D, which is the intersection of Airport Boulevard and Laughlin going west to Ordnance Road. And the plan for phase 1D is for a roundabout at the intersection of Airport Boulevard and Laughlin or Skylane Boulevard, and then to do bicycle lane improvements and complete gaps in sidewalk for that project.
I would appreciate that.
Let me see it. Don, would you mind advancing it? Here we go. Okay. And then phase 1C is from, like I said, Airport Boulevard, Regional Parkway to Laughlin. And that is to potentially widen Airport Boulevard and or do intersection improvements such as roundabouts, and then complete gaps and sidewalks, add buffered bike lanes, and add crosswalks. And we have an intersection control evaluation study or corridor study that evaluates different options, that looks at safety and just traffic, that looks into future traffic volumes that are anticipated along the corridor to see what the best alternative would be. So we're currently reviewing that study to see what would be the best alternative for that segment of Airport Boulevard.
Yeah, David.
Yeah, just a quick question. Is there any general knowledge about how a roundabout assists the flow and reduces the need to add lane? You know, if they're function of speed limits and stuff like that, or
generally, I think a roundabout can be more efficient than a traffic signal, depending on, I guess, the demand from like side streets. If the side streets don't have as much demand, or it's all different, so they simulate it on the computer.
also need for additional lane. If you're not traffic isn't stopped. So does that, you know, there could be some interplay with the additional lane in a route.
Definitely. So I think we're looking at maybe just adding a lane on the traffic going east and maybe not another lane on the westbound traffic. So we're looking at all the different combinations to try to minimize, you know, adding lanes if it's not needed.
Because in theory, we're headed to a time when smart cars don't need as much space between them, et cetera. I mean, we should be really reconsidering adding lanes anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
What class of bike facilities are you proposing? Or are you not at that level of granularity yet?
No, yeah, we're looking at class 2 buffered bike lanes. We did look at class 4 bike lanes, and we presented different options to the bicycle committee, and they preferred the class 2 buffered bike lanes.
Really?
Yeah.
That surprises me because I would always argue for the class 4.
Yeah, Tom.
If I can follow up on the definition of buffered, is that just paint? How wide is the extra paint, or is it buffered with some kind of raising or bollard?
Sure. Yeah, we're hoping to have some kind of physical barrier, but definitely at a minimum, it will be painted buffer. But yeah, we are looking into seeing an option where we would have a buffer, like a physical barrier between the two. We have to be concerned about, you know, maintenance costs. So we're trying to balance.
So then my follow-up to my follow-up, if you may, is while you're doing the design, these scenario planning study right now, will you be looking at level of traffic stress on cyclists as a variable? Because to Eris's point, if the route is more low stress to a rider, you'll end up having more cars in the bike or more travelers in the bike lane than you will in the car lane. At least that should be an assumption that would be reasonable based on other studies I've read. So I would encourage you to look at that in the design stage in your study to the extent that you have the funding to do so.
Okay. Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
It looked to me like on the map, it was the work begins from
Can you go back?
west of the transit center, the SMART train, as opposed to west of the highway 101?
Correct. So there's already been work basically from the highway up to SMART. So widening has occurred to that point. So Regional Parkway is just west of kind of the SMART tracks. So we're looking we're looking at improvements from basically SMART all the way to Ordnance with these two projects.
Which is going to be focused on safe slowing, calming of the roadway there to get to the airport.
That's a portion of it, yeah. So there's the completing gaps in sidewalk, the bike lanes, and then looking at traffic volumes up for future.
Yeah.
Where are you proposing the roundabout?
We're proposing right now, we know for sure that we're proposing a roundabout at Airport and Laughlin.
but not at the east side.
There is the potential for at Brickway to add a roundabout and then one of the other intersections. And that's all part of the study that we're currently reviewing. So that we are looking at potentially roundabouts.
Comprehensive.
Correct.
Excellent.
Go to that slide.
But the illustration item up there is a signal, right?
Yeah, this is
What does the roundabout symbol look like?
You do have a design, if you wouldn't mind advancing a few slides. Let's see, one more, I think.
Mr. Chair, if I may, real quick, the mapping is a old map that SCTCA did. And I don't think we had a symbol at the time in our mapping software for a roundabout, just a low traffic signal symbol. So we can update that map.
Perfect. Thank you, David. So this is the layout of the roundabout at Laughlin and Airport Boulevard from our 65% design, which we've advanced a little bit from this. And so it's a 1-lane roundabout that's proposed, and it incorporates the class 2 bike lanes, and as well as there's no widening that we plan west of this intersection. So it will just be 1 lane in each direction with the 2-way left turn lane, and then the class 2 bike
What's
lanes.
the purple?
Sure. So the purple are multi-use pathways for bikes and pedestrians to use. So it's gonna be like a 8 to 10 foot wide.
We always make the bikes and the pedestrians a little
Yes,
farther.
we had presented separating them, but the bike committee favored this design.
Is this an optimal design for a roundabout?
Is it
An optimal design for a roundabout?
yes, so they looked at all different configurations, the design consultant, and this is the design that they recommended for this
So
specific situation.
from my little experience, do you see what they call it?
A slip lane?
There is an island. This is, for safety is not a good design, Roundabout usually, even, when you make a turn, it is within, the circle itself. So as you can give priority for the traffic inside the circle and for pedestrians, because people, for example, if they are going, west and they want to make a right turn, they will make it at full speed.
So yeah, we're looking at different geometric configurations that can slow the traffic down and for that slip lane. So we can make it as safe as possible for pedestrian and bicycles.
But this is the final one, or?
Yeah.
Angela?
So what's the transition though from purple that Eris asked about to orange? The purples go into an orange section.
That's sidewalk, I believe, up on the west side of.
Well, there's 3 places where the purple goes to orange. Connect.
I believe, yeah. So the purple, then that's just sidewalk is the orange, if I understand correctly. So it will tie into the existing sidewalk on the southeast side, and then on the west side, the sidewalk will be constructed on the north side of Airport Boulevard.
So cyclists go on the blue then, or what?
So the blue is what was proposed before, which is the class 4. So that section will be modified. This exhibit isn't the latest, it isn't completely up to date, but this was the latest that we had. So that there will be the bicycles will be able to come off of Airport Boulevard onto that multi-use pathway, and then the blue will be orange and tie back into the sidewalk.
So I would
Angela?
like, sorry.
Yeah, I got a dumb question for a paratransit person to be asking, but when you're designing for separate bicycle and walking, where do you see wheelchairs?
So it's all going to be ADA compliant.
So they can go on either.
Well, it's mixed, so it can be used by either bicycles or pedestrians. It's either is able to access the pathways. It will be cement, so it will be accessible by wheelchairs. Definitely.
So what will be the traffic control for people walking or the cyclists who choose to use the purple? I just go through with the cars myself, but so the couple of the places it look like there's two separate crossings. Are there going to be beacons? I mean, how are the pedestrians? How are the cars going to stop pedestrians crossing those?
Sure. Yeah, we haven't fully fleshed out kind of the different mechanism, I guess, different thing, whether it's going to be a flashing beacon or those different. So we'll look at the safety aspects for the pedestrians as we get into the final details.
In fact, I'd like, to formally, put my concerns about your design, This is, concern for the safety of pedestrian is not a good design, Especially you have two crosswalks, the sidewalk, you said this is a final design, so I encourage you to take another look at it.
Okay, yeah.
Tom?
Yeah, I think I'm going to pile on here a little bit too. It just feels like if you're used to using the roundabout in your car and you've gone through it 20 times and then suddenly there's a pedestrian on the far side, you may not be expecting to see them there. And to having some kind of pedestrian flashing beacon or something, it may almost be too late because you're used to just going right through that roundabout. Also, to Eris's point, many bicyclists will probably stay in the lane, and I don't think we have good data yet. This kind of design and how many people opt to use the multi-use path, which is significantly longer than just staying with the flow of traffic.
Sure.
So
I want to remind people to go ahead and move the mic closer because we got people remote.
Thank you. Appreciate the reminder. So those are my concerns in looking at this. I know I very much appreciate the effort that's going into countywide to do better traffic flow, use of roundabouts, but this safety element, we're hearing from the public so much feedback that people want safer infrastructure for bike and ped.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we selected this because roundabouts are known to be safer for all users. And so we're trying to incorporate safety as a major element of the project and make sure that it's, considered and strongly weighed in as part of what's decided to be installed or constructed at intersections or roadways. So.
Yeah, I kind of hope that also in the future, when you refine some of the design, that you have a little bit more clarity behind how you're incorporating wheelchair access and thinking about that. Because just saying that it's ADA compliant doesn't explain to me exactly what you're designing in for that purpose.
Sure.
I mean, even signage is going to make a difference so that people understand how to utilize the roads once you get it finished.
Okay, yeah. So Caltrans has certain ramps like slopes and different criteria that you have to follow for it to be. It needs to be compliant with those to ensure that it is accessible to wheelchairs. So in constructing this, we'll ensure that all those ramps are compliant with those requirements. So it will be navigable by all users, including wheelchair users.
Don, is there anybody on the remote that has a question or hand up? I can't see them.
Well, and Sherry, I didn't have my hand up, but I'll just jump in for a second. I don't have as many concerns as everybody else does about the roundabout, because this looks very close to the way they have it in Zeeland and for their highways, in fact, and I've crossed those on bikes and walked across them. The one concern I would have or would think about is, yeah, the flashing lights would be great because people do want to get to the airport, and if you had something where there's a flashing yellow light when you need somebody to cross, it would flash in all directions because you don't know which way they're going to cross.
Four-way. I'd look at that.
Good point, David.
Yeah,
Exactly.
well, Tom Banning isn't here today, but he had raised that same question about that westbound turning north being a separate lane where, okay, the cars are less likely to slow down, et cetera. I mean, there was a safety issue. But this whole discussion has caused me, as I said earlier, to think about whether roundabouts can reduce the need for additional lanes. I mean, if traffic isn't stopping, and so you got two things. You have design, because that's the most expensive thing, is adding another lane. You got to get that right away, and that's an expensive, and if we could start saving money by not adding lanes, and it isn't just the question of design like roundabouts, but the cars are getting smarter to avoid each other and to be able to reduce the following distance and increase the capacity without adding a lane. I mean, if we want to start talking about saving money, it's don't add lanes.
So by adding like a slip lane, it prevents us or it allows us to not have to add other lanes, you know, along the corridor portion of it. So that's why we're kind of looking at this to try.
Yeah, that's what you're calling that north, from westbound to northbound as a slip lane. That
Slip lane bothers me.
Mark?
Yeah.
Is the driver for the slip lane, is the traffic counts that you've got, or is it vehicular turning motion for bigger trucks and stuff?
So it was traffic counts that incorporated the different, and then it was like projecting into the future based on the different anticipated projects that are going to be constructed in that time frame to see kind of what lanes or configurations that the roundabout would anticipate to be need to last the longest.
Eris.
So that leads me to an interesting question. You're saying, okay, here's other development that's going to happen and what's going to happen with traffic. Are you assuming that we will continue to be as car dependent as we are now? Or are you basing it based on what our stated goals are for reducing individual auto travel and encouraging other things? Which of those do you use in that calculation?
So we use SCTCA's model. But also this is an industrial area. So I think that the conversion might not be as great as say like a residential area. So we haven't, I guess, gone down the road too far into, but it's a good thing to, you know, consider is the conversion of the mode shift in an area.
All right, with consideration for the time, let's go ahead and move on then to the next project. Thank you.
So the construction schedule for this project, at least for the roundabout project, is anticipated to go into construction next summer. And then, oh, I think I can advance it. So the project has some Go Sonoma funding as well as Measure M funding, and then also local county funds as part of the project.
Great.
In Pengrove.
Hang on a second. I've got a hand up to ask a question while we're still in the airport.
Let's go ahead and move forward, Jerry. We got a lot of stuff to cover. Sorry.
It's a really fast question, John. Just since we're not doing phase 5, is anybody ever talked about fixing the bridge, repairing the bridge?
Which is this the Laughlin Bridge? Brickway.
Yeah. Laughlin.
The one-way bridge.
The one-way bridge. There have been talks about that. I personally am not involved in those, so that I would have to get back to you on, you know, if there's any plans. I haven't heard of any I don't think anything's anticipated within the next 10 years, but I don't know all the details. So I would have to get back to you with more details on that.
Thank you.
So for Pengrove, there was a study that was completed in 2008 that had some funding from Measure M. And there are 4 additional phases of projects. We have the intersection improvements at Adobe and Main Street, and then intersection improvements at that is not highway, at Old Redwood Highway and Railroad Avenue. and then intersection improvements at Old Redwood Highway and Goodwin or Eli Road. And then, oh, that is actually, sorry. It just, the phases were different. Okay, so it is Highway 101 and Railroad Avenue, which we aren't currently working on. And then there are the Old Redwood Highway and Goodwin intersection improvements, and then the intersection improvements at Old Redwood Highway and Railroad Avenue, phases 3 and 4. So we're currently working on phases 1, 3, and 4. I don't think I can advance anymore. Dawn, could you advance the next slide? So at Adobe Road and Main Street, or Petaluma Hill Road, we are planning on adding a dedicated left turn lane from Main Street going on to westbound Adobe Road, as well as adding or replacing the current pedestrian ramps with the latest Americans with Disability Act compliant ramps. And then there's also a plan to add sidewalk from from Main Street to Oak Street on the south side of Adobe Road.
What's the road on the bottom right that's running up the page?
The bottom, this running
right
up
above your legend.
So, sure. So south of the intersection is Main Street, and north of it is Petaluma Hill Road.
That's Oak Street. Okay.
Oak
is the one over there on the.
Yeah,
it's Oak Street.
Okay, so you're going to run sidewalks. Go over where your sidewalks are going again.
Sure. So it's going to go from Main Street to Oak Street on the south side of Adobe Road.
Thank you.
It's currently that empty lot. That's on the corner.
Just drove through there today. Yeah.
Why are you not putting one on a crossing on the east side of Adobe?
Sure. So on that side, there's not really much room, and there aren't many pedestrians over on that side. There is a creek that kind of goes right up to the road with an embankment. And so
the creek's on the north side.
The north side, correct, of Adobe Road on that east leg.
Have you considered the roundabout at this intersection?
So the scope of this one was limited to start with, so we weren't doing like full improvements. So there was a plan to put like a right turn lane, dedicated right turn lane, but we weren't able to secure the right of way, so the scope has been decreased. So we never got to the point where we're going to look at a full redo of the intersection.
So I've been in endless community meetings about all of this. It was my stomping grounds. I was going to, the sidewalks are good. I don't see anything here that will make any improvement for cyclists. And I know the smart pathway right now ends right downtown. And then it's getting off of that pathway to then go north on Petaluma Hill Road kind of sucks. So I'm disappointed that there's not anything in this plan that will make it easier for cyclists going through.
Yeah, we are trying to, on the east side of Petaluma Hill Road, we're trying to bring down the class 2 bike lane as far as possible. And then as far as like the signal improvements, we'll have to see if we can have like a bike detection.
So adding that left turn lane, where are you getting the space for adding that lane? What are you taking it away from? Or are you widening it there?
We're not widening it there. So the existing like lane or area is a little bit wider. So we're taking it from like kind of both sides of the.
Okay, so you're narrowing the other lanes in order to make that.
We're going to take some
special.
Yeah.
I can't tell who that is, but somebody remote has a.
Stephen.
Oh, Stephen, go ahead.
Oh, that was me. Yeah, thanks for noticing. I was just gonna add a little bit of context because you were asking about why the sidewalk was connecting up there to Oak Street, and that's downstream of at least a couple safe routes to school meetings that we had out there on site with parents and the principal of the school at the time. And basically what's going on is that congestion can be so bad in this intersection that parents struggle to drop off their children for the school in the school's parking lot or even along Adobe Road. So what they're doing instead is they're going up to Oak Street, and there's a church there. I think it's right underneath this legend that has a very large parking lot, and a lot of parents were dropping their children off there, and that path right now is just not adequate for pedestrians to walk on right now because it was an AC path with one of those AC berms, and the AC berm has been hit so many times that chunks of it are all over the area where the kids walk. And it's both a safety hazard because it's basically doesn't have an adequate curb because it's broken off, but then it makes it hard for the kids to walk over because they're constantly stepping over broken pieces of AC. I just wanted to add that context that was a direct request to extend that a legitimate concrete sidewalk up there for the kids to be able to get to school easier.
Thanks, Stephen.
You're welcome.
Bob?
That actually modifies what I was going to say because I am concerned about the phasing of this project because I kind of agree with Eris that the immediate benefits seem to be limited, particularly when you think about it from the perspective of a driver. I drove through that intersection the other day coming back to Sonoma from Sonoma State University, which seemed to be the majority of traffic at that time of day, coming down Petaluma Hill and turning east on Adobe. However, that behavior of the school population changes my thinking a little bit. Maybe we do need to do something immediate to address that urgent concern. So I'm struggling. I know you guys are doing the best you can to design with the money you have. So
yeah,
thank you for consideration.
Thank you.
So this project is anticipating going into construction later this year. Let's see if we can go. And
coming up quick.
Yes, it is. And it has funding from Measure M, both the LSP and Measure M. LSP
got a bid date already?
We do not have a bid date already.
Okay.
Yeah, we're trying to finish up a few things before we get that. And then there's also local funds from the county that are part of this project. And with that, I will hand it over to Carmen for phases 3 and 4.
Yeah, thank you, Hunter. So one of the projects I'm working on in Pengrove are at the intersection of Old Red and Goodwin and Eli Road. And what's proposed for this is a roundabout with that incorporates crosswalks, bike lanes, street lighting, and new sidewalk. Right now, there's not a significant amount of pedestrians or bicyclists, but a lot of the design took into account the population growth and development in the area. And so we'll also have the multi-use pathways essentially constructed in anticipation of future build out of possibly sidewalks. So similar to the Adobe in Maine, we're having the facilities for less confident cyclists to be able to use rather than going into the roundabout. And for this, we do have, I believe, the rapid flashing beacons for either the cyclists or the pedestrians. And with this project, we're currently in the 65% designed phase, nearing the 95%. A lot of what we're focusing on right now is coordinating with PG&E and working on right-of-way. And once we have both of those finalized, we anticipate being able to go into construction in the summer of 2027. The funding is split between Measure M and Roner Park traffic mitigation fees, 50-50, with some local funds provided for construction.
Harris?
So when you talk about bike lanes, how far from the intersection are we talking? Because I know pretty much, if I recall correctly, when I turn from southbound Redwood Highway left onto Eli, there's like not any bike lanes at all. So how far are they going to go?
We're just looking at, you can see the dark shaded gray areas. That will be the extent of our project area. And as far as bike lanes, there are currently bike lanes going down Old Red that will be essentially incorporating into the new design, as well as adding green paint. But again, anywhere past those areas, that would have to
So
be a
nothing on
future.
Eli, because I mean, Redwood Highway already has bike lanes,
Right.
but Eli doesn't have any.
Right.
So it's only going to be as far as that.
Yes. So right now we're kind of leaning on the multi-use facilities to act as the bike lanes on those, because we wouldn't be able to connect any bike lane to non-existing area. Like essentially down Goodwin or down Eli, we wouldn't be able to, we're only replacing what's existing there.
I'm not sure I understood that, but.
There are currently existing bike lanes going down Old Red, and so we'll be incorporating that. And
but you're not adding any on Eli.
Right.
Okay.
All right, Mosa?
Yeah, in fact, on the southern leg, the northbound, there is something in the middle. What is it?
Sorry?
You know, in the southern leg, the northbound lane, there is something in the middle. What is it?
Are you
This
referring to the
lane.
slip lane? Oh, so those on the northbound, that southern
Leg, yeah.
part of Old Red, we're gonna have a slip lane in that, and that is because when doing the intersection control evaluation, it was noted that a roundabout wouldn't be able to handle projected, I think 2040 models of traffic. So either we would have had to install a traffic signal, but again, where our focus is on safer infrastructure. So we were able to work with the consultants to add a slip lane, which reduces that delay and allows us to still meet the required level of service in order to construct a roundabout. And as far as if you're referring to the middle, those are the refuge islands, because those lanes, when we're considering the timing of possibly slower or, you know, elderly pedestrians crossing those roads, we consider installing an island, a refuge island, so that they're able to kind of stop there if that timing kind of ends before they're able to cross the entire way. So.
Thank you.
Angela?
Yeah, regarding the funding, how is it that Rohnert Park is adding to the funding on this, but Petaluma isn't? How was that established for Pen Grove?
These aren't within the Petaluma, is it?
So it's a fund that is because of housing that's been constructed in Rohnert Park, and so it can only be used for projects that are impacted by those additional like trips. And that's the extent that I'm aware of it. I think it's something that is managed by.
So Rohnert Park got the call. Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, I can provide some more background. So the project was programmed with a combination of Measure M, LSP funding, and as noted, Rohnert Park mitigation funds. Those mitigation funds are passed through from the city of Rohnert Park to SCTCA to mitigate for traffic associated with the university district specific plan, which was subject to some litigation that required the city to develop a mitigation fee program for that university district. Those improvements in this project are eligible for those funds, along with a few other projects within the area, including the prior project we talked about at Adobe and Main Street, and the next one we'll be talking about at Old Road, Highway, and Railroad, along with a few other projects in the Cotati, Rohnert Park, and the county areas. There are no traffic fees assessed on developments in Petaluma, and this is the only mitigation fee program that SCTCA administers.
Thank you, funding wizard. Gandalf.
And if I could follow up on that.
Yeah, Tom, go ahead.
In the previous project we saw at just south of Sonoma State University, there's no Rohnert Park mitigation fees going to that project, though. Is that correct?
David?
Well, I think there-
Yeah, so at the previous project at Adobe Main, there are mitigation fees associated with that.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
And the next intersection we're working on in Pen Grove is just north on Old Red Highway Road and Railroad Avenue. And similar to the last project, this will incorporate a roundabout and crosswalks, bike lanes, street lighting, and new sidewalks. So a lot of the design schedule and construction schedule are being created in tandem. And so you'll see a lot of crossover there.
No slip lane.
Right. So there was much greater flow and traffic flow in the Eli Road. So we had to be a little bit more creative in handling those future volumes. That wasn't necessary at this intersection. So this is a much simpler configuration.
David.
So maybe Eric's can answer this, but I mean, this is the hiatus in the smart path between Railroad and Pen Grove. Is there a reason that is delayed, or?
You'll have to ask Smart about that.
Okay. That isn't something that SCTA has an influence on? Or the county?
So the schedule is going to be similar to that on Eli and Goodwin. We're currently in the 65% design, very close to achieving the 95% design plans. And a lot of that is coordinating with PG&E and getting the right-of-way acquisitions completed. And we have a proposed construction schedule beginning next summer in 2027.
Big year coming up.
Yeah. Again, the funds were split evenly between Measure M and Rohnert Park traffic mitigation fees, though construction is anticipated to be greater at this intersection. And as such, our local funds contribution is also greater. And if there aren't any other questions, that's it for those two intersections. Thank you.
Yep. Let's go ahead and move on to the Arnold.
Okay, the Arnold Drive bike lane project, I'm going to speak on that. My name, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Stephen Hunter. I work for Sonoma Public Infrastructure. And this project has a special and unique history of being quite lengthy in terms of development. And what ended up happening is that the project manager who was managing this for, I don't know, at least 5 years or so, she retired. And so the idea was that she was, when she retired, she was going to pass this project off or come back as extra help and assist with it. But instead of that, we have a new group working on it, and we had our first regroup meeting last week. So we met with the engineer to solidify the project status and make sure that we really were ready to go into construction in 2027. And it sounds like we are. So on this slide, it basically just depicts the 2 miles of Class 2 bike lane intended to run on both sides of Arnold Drive between Madrone Avenue and Country Club Drive. One of the main reasons that this project is expensive is because it's environmentally sensitive in the sense that we have to cross There's four waterways like ditches or creeks that have to be crossed on this, and they're currently crossed with what we call in the industry box culverts, which instead of it being metal pipes going under the road, they're essentially concrete doorways or concrete tunnels that go from one side of the road to the other side of the road. And because this project needs widening of the road, those culverts end up having to be widened, and that comes with a little bit of a price tag. But essentially, we're widening the road for this 2 miles on both sides to add class 2 bike lanes. And where we cross those waterways, we're essentially building 8 retaining walls, 2 on each side of the 4 crossings, with traffic rated what's called concrete barrier slabs, which means that for it to be strong enough for cars to impact the side of it, you can't use just regular guardrail in a situation like this. You have to cantilever a section of the road will be concrete, and then you cantilever upwards a concrete barrier rail. So I'm just giving you guys a background. I just got my hands into this project last week when I was talking to the consultant engineer for the first time, but here's the status of it. The total project cost is $7.65 million, which is depicted a total cost, bottom cell to the very left here. We're short 3.6 million, and the 4.07 million that is funded comes from these various sources. We have some coming from the Roads Department, Climate Resiliency, TDA 3, Measure M. Why don't we go to the next slide? This will show you, the next slide here shows you kind of what the road looks like right now, which is basically a 2 12-foot lane, double yellow line striped. I want to say the speed limit's 45 miles an hour. What we want to do is reduce those travel lanes down to 11 feet wide to incentivize traffic calming, add a 2 foot of painted buffer zone with a 5 foot paved bike lane, with then an additional 1 foot of shoulder to help keep horizontal immovable objects like trees and mailboxes and things like that even further away from the cyclists. We're cleared our CEQA. Our design is currently at 65%, and they're moving forward on that. We do still need to get resource agency permits, which will force us to have, because it is environmentally sensitive, our construction window is going to be very specific between June 15th of 2027 and October 15th of 2027. That is an environmental condition, and we're just finishing up right of way. The only thing that I heard last week that was still outstanding was, it sounded like 2 temporary construction easements. We're waiting for signatures, but we are anticipating that happening within the next month or so. We do have the funding shortfall of $3.6 million, which is an obvious burden on the project, but everything else is coming into alignment, and the project will be ready with biddable or advertisable construction documents of spring of 2027. And like I mentioned earlier, we're hoping to get this into construction in the summer of 2027.
Thank you, Steve. Tom?
Great. Thank you so much for that concise explanation. I was just out there 2 weekends ago canvassing for Assembly District candidate, and noticed that there was a big pothole on one of those crossings, and phoned it in or texted it in through the county's SCTCA alert app.
Yep.
And you guys were out there within 72 hours. I think I did it on Saturday afternoon, and it was done. So appreciate your prompt attention there. It is a very high-speed corridor. It's higher than 45, I'm sure, by standard practice. And narrowing the lanes makes a lot of sense. I'm glad to see you're making fast progress to try to get to construction on it. I know that there was talk earlier that a lot of trees were going to have to go in some areas. But I think improving the bicycle safety on that corridor is really a high priority in Snow Valley.
Yeah, and we're working with regional parks on mitigation. And for the first time in my career, we actually have, we have a place to mitigate that makes sense. So regional park says that they want trees. They know where they would like to plant trees in their publicly accessible areas anyway. And because they have rangers on site and they have, other park support staff that they can facilitate managing and watering these plants. So before that deal was struck, and I think we're going to be able to utilize regional parks on this project because I'm flipping through the drawings right now. We do have quite a few trees that are needing to be removed for this project to be successful. But the good news is that we're going to be able to mitigate onto a park project where it's going to end up being enjoyed by the public anyway. Usually, what we'd have to do is either mitigate somewhere on site, which is really limited, and it's really not in the public's best interest or the utility company's best interest for us to be planting a lot of trees on a road corridor because they end up growing and becoming fire hazards later as they, intertwine with the overhead utilities. So we've been struggling to find a way to work with environmental resource agencies. And this is one of the first projects that we're going to get to use regional parks instead of a mitigation bank. That's the other option, is that we pay a non-public mitigation bank to plant trees. And then it's not as enjoyable by the public because it's really out of sight. They're usually on private land. But I thought that was a nice partnership with regional parks to strike that deal where we can mitigate by planting on their land and having their staff facilitate and helping the survival rate.
All right. Thank you, Stephen. Pardon? Is there one? I didn't see one.
Yeah, I can read it for you. It says, it's from Carol Taylor, and it says, is the 2-foot buffer a painted line? This has cars going 55 to 65 miles an hour, so a protective buffer is really important. Which bike trails connect on each end?
I don't know if I have the name of the bike trails that connect on each end, but I can say that there was a roundabout that was constructed recently at the intersection of Agua Caliente and Arnold Drive. And this project fits in perfectly with the infrastructure that was built for that. On the very northern side, let's see if it says. No, the drawings that I'm looking at don't name the bike trails on the north or the south end of the project. But does anybody happen to know, are there existing bike trails that connect to that? Do you know, Eris?
I don't, Tom, you
Yeah.
provide that area.
So there's kind of conventional 2-foot painted 4-inch stripe south of this area. But again, it's high speed and there's no north-south protected bike lanes in that area. While I've got the mic, to Carol's point about the high speeds being so proximate to the bike lane, has there been any consideration given to putting those divots in the pavement that when you hit them with your car, it gives you quite the rumble strips? Is there any plan to use anything like that in this high-speed area?
What does a cycle community think about that? I can definitely approach the consultant engineer and ask him about the additional cost of doing something like that. Are there any negatives to that? I guess it occasionally makes road noise. These cyclists, do they like that?
My only experiences with rumble strips have not been good. On some of Highway 12 between Santa Rosa and Sonoma, there's some rumble strips, but their placement is such that as a cyclist, you end up having to ride on them sometimes or accidentally get on them, and that is a bit of a hazard. If they were at the edge of the buffer closest to the vehicles, that the vehicles would hit them, but I think that they still, by by the time a vehicle hit the rumble strips in the buffer, they're already on their way to hitting the cyclist that's in the bike lane. So I don't know that they make that big of a difference. Tom? What do you
Yeah,
think?
my sense is that they are currently used in places where there really isn't adequate bicycle lane capacity. And that creates the problem that Eris is describing. The idea that I had riding the area the other day on my bike was that where the bridges are, where you're having to do that extra work on your cantilevered concrete segments, where you've got the most potential because there's a railing right there. If a bicycle is being run off the road by a drunk driver, you know, I can abandon my bike into the ground. But if I'm on a bridge with a railing right there, I can't. And so that's where I might be most appreciative of a rumble strip to sort of teach everybody that drives along that road, stay really close to the center lane on the bridge. So that would be maybe until we have better experience with higher bicycle usage along some of these county inter-regional roads, that might be a test to do on this project, but I defer to the engineering expertise you have retained.
Yeah, I'll bring it up to the consulting engineer. And we'll find out if it makes sense. We would try to put them as close to the cars as possible.
All right, we're gonna have to move on.
Thanks, Sean.
We're already late. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry about
was
that.
Was that good? You conclude? I think so.
Yeah, I'm good. If you guys are good, we could have follow-up questions at the very end.
That's great information coming from the cyclist community too, into the design aspect. So appreciate all of the comments. Anything else? All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, Brett, you're 3 minutes late already. I don't know why you're so late all the time, but
I'll be quick.
okay.
The one who brings it back up to mine.
He's the efficiency master.
Yeah.
Might as well go, you know, like. full
I like it's
speed.
better. They can see the screen.
It should be like this. Move this island to here, and the lane will become here.
You'll get used to it.
Because this is unsafe.
All right.
That's the one I want, right?
But you widen it here, which is the lane here. Shift it to here.
Let's see, will you please load up the presentation, Dawn?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's just not cooperating with me for some reason. Hold on, it's showing on my screen, just not up there. So give me 1 second. Oh. Sorry.
All right.
It,
We'll blame Brenton. Don't worry about it.
Me too.
Yeah. Perfect. Good. Your fault.
There we go.
All right. Hello, everyone. We'll be doing the Go Sonoma and Measure M financials for the month ending April 30th, 2026. And unlike the last couple of months, we actually have some transactions, so that'll be more fun to talk about.
Cool.
Yep. Hold on. Should I try it one more time? Okay. The presentation or the order of materials is the same as in similar months. We did modify the balance sheet report slightly this time. I think they're a little clearer with the account titles on them, which should make it easier to read without flipping back and forth between pages. All right, and then moving on to Go Sonoma for the Go Sonoma financials, revenues were just under $2.2 million in April with year-to-date revenues of $21,045,000 so far this year. And the expenses for April were $4,540,292 with year-to-date expenses just over $11.5 million. And Go Sonoma is sitting on a cash balance of $13,351,006. The money is coming in. To talk about the Measure M to Go Sonoma loan balance, The balance of the loan as of the April 30th date was $1,847,550, as we've reported in prior months. Although the partial payment was made in I believe it was the 1st of May, so you'll see it next month, and the loan has been partially repaid at this point. But if the loan were repaid as of the end of the month, the Go Sonoma cash balance would be $11,503,456. Go Sonoma admin, as you see, is still sitting on a slightly negative cash balance from the repayment of the election costs. This is falling at about $20,000 a month has been what I've seen. So we're looking at maybe another month, month and a half, and then it'll be in the black again.
Okay.
So the April revenues, $2,068,398 of it was sales tax, and we received the third quarter interest payment, $127,262. Here is the comparison of the Go Sonoma to Measure M sales taxes received. Yes, as you see, the taxes received in April, $2,043,904 last year. The year-to-date earned are the funds received that were actually accounted for in this year, 25-26, and they exclude the first 2 months of payments, the July and August, which are counted to May and June of 24-25. And the year-to-date received show the actual dollars that we received in 25-26. So that does include those last 2 payments for 24-25. And as you see here, the year-to-date earned and April both substantially similar, up about 1.2, 1.3% from last year, which is what we budgeted for as well. So we're getting close to the end of the year, and it looks like we are seeing some slight growth.
So the 24-25 is only Measure M revenue?
Correct. Yeah, at this point, I believe, thinking back on it now, 24-25, the last 2 months of 24-25 were Go Sonoma. So as we get into those, we'll start seeing Go Sonoma and Measure M dollars intermingled at the very tail end of the year. But at this point, these were all just Measure M dollars. But these 2 charts will eventually mix Measure M and Go Sonoma for the last months of 24-25.
But for comparison, are we comparing, as they say, apples to apples?
Yes. Yeah, it'll be apples to apples. All right. And the April expenses, $4,488,380 of the expenses were contributions to other governments. That was the Go Sonoma Roads and Go Sonoma Transit Program payment. And then there's $36,673 in staff time and $13,451 in consultant services. Moving on to Measure M. Measure M received $781,154 in April, with year-to-date revenues at $2,584,852, and a large expense month for Measure M of $9,115,450, with year-to-date expenses of $17,540,000.
What's the source of the revenue for Measure M?
It is all interest expense this quarter. Yes. So for this quarter, all of the Measure M revenues were interest. We do have some reimbursement programs, but we didn't receive any payments for them in April. So Bitcoin. Yeah, it's all Bitcoin.
Yeah.
The April expenses, the largest portion is this $9 million STIP exchange. That was a board-approved exchange where some funds were used by SCTCA for a program some number of years ago. I don't know the entire history of the program. The board approved the exchange where $9 million of Highway 101 funds were repaid to the SCTA for projects. And so this $9 million expense was moved to SCTA for various projects. There was also $69,248 in consulting services and $22,311 in staff time. And that concludes my presentation.
Very nice.
Thank you. Unless there's any questions.
I like the interest. Almost looks like Brian's account.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Happy to be here today. In the interest of time, I'm going to go pretty quickly through these slides. So let me go ahead and bring those up. But I'll be giving an update on our comprehensive transportation plan today. So just to keep everyone in the loop, I first just want to thank everyone for all of your comments on the draft plan. So those were really useful. We've been able to incorporate many of those into the final plan, and really appreciate your interest and support and providing that information. So we closed our public comment period on the CTP on March 23rd. Um, and we've compiled the draft plan. So it's in final design right now. We're expecting to release that in the next few weeks. So we'll get the word out to this committee as soon as that's available. But today I'm just going to go through, the main themes that we heard as part of that public comment on the draft and some of the changes we've made. And I'm going to try and do that as quickly as possible. So there are a few minutes for questions. So here's just a look at the schedule. I'm not going to go through this in detail, just because we're short on time, but we've been working on this for the last couple years, kicked it off in 2024, and are wrapping up with a final CTP in the coming weeks. So just a reminder on our CTP vision and goals. So we've really focused on connecting people to where they want to go and moving towards a zero emissions transportation network, while at the same time really emphasizing safety, equity, and quality of life. You can see our 4 goals here, which we've talked about a lot. Again, focusing on connections and reliability of transportation, making sure our transportation system is well maintained and safe. Really focusing on communities and places. Sonoma County is pretty diverse, so a lot of different needs depending on where you are and where you live and where you're traveling. So try to keep that in mind in our planning. And finally, again, moving towards a zero emissions transportation system. So I'll be covering 2 different groups of comments, one batch of comments from our board of directors, and then some major themes that we heard about from the public and our advisory committee. So I'll go through those in a little bit of detail in the following slides. So first, our board was very interested in e-devices, and there's a lot of concern with safety and e-bikes and e-scooters and e-motos and what's what, and a lot of confusion about e-motos being passed off as e-bikes, things like that. So our board's very interested in coordinated education, working together on safety, aligning their municipal codes on these devices, and then really want to collaborate on data collection as well to know what types of devices are involved in crashes and citations involving these types of devices as well. So in response to that, we included quite a bit of more information on e-bikes and other e-mobility devices in the plan, and added some recommendations to coordinate both on data collection and developing those policies. So our board was also very interested in traffic calming and speed management. So this is also something we heard about a lot during the public comment and from other advisory committees. So our board would like to see more best practices, policies, and resources for speed reduction. So we do have a lot of work going on in that area. So we were able to include a lot of that in the final plan. And then there's interest in being consistent with speed limits at city limits. So making sure that you're not going from a 25 mile per hour road to a 45 mile per road once you cross a jurisdictional boundary. So our board would like to coordinate on that. And so again, there's a lot going on in this area at the state, local, and regional level. So we added a lot of information in the plan and links and resources to help support our jurisdictions in those areas. Again, interest in Highway 37 and specifically who's using the corridor. So there are a few past studies that have looked into that. So we've pulled some of that information into the plan and provided some references if you'd like to dig in more on that as well. So moving on to some of the other themes that we heard about as part of our public comment period, we heard pretty broad support for our CTP vision and goals, but there are concerns of us being able to actually make that a reality. And then we heard kind of 2 sides of a similar coin. First, concerns that we aren't doing enough to reduce transportation GHG emissions, and on the other side, concerns that focusing on GHG reduction will distract us from improving and preserving our roadway quality. So again, The CTP is trying to address both of those concerns. They're roadway preservation and maintenance projects for each jurisdiction in there. There is a significant amount of funding being directed into that area. And, there's a broad swath of different GHG reducing projects in the plan as well. So we're trying to address both of those concerns. We've included references to different planning efforts and actions and programs across the county and the region that are seeking to make progress in this area, and added recommendations for what we can do in the future as well. So other studies and other work we can do in future CTPs. We also heard a desire for a clear, more concise, action-oriented plan. So the current plan's pretty dense. It's over 100 pages. There's a lot of information in there. So we'd like to slim that down in the future. I would say that the CTP is a valuable reference for our staff and for other local staff. So we'll have to navigate the best way to do that and where to put that reference information in the future. But that is something that we'd like to do in future planning cycles. Also interested in quantitative metrics, doing more of that, talking more about scoring and funding. So we've added some information on that in the plan, and definitely want to do a better job on that in future planning cycles as well. And in the fall, I'll talk about this very briefly. We're looking at putting together a near-term implementation plan as well that'll dig into funding and what we can do in the next 5 to 10 years. So we also heard a lot of support about, again, safety, speed limit reductions, electrification, electric mobility devices. So our board and the public and committees are interested in that. So again, we added more content. We called out references in our active transportation plans or Vision Zero action plan to show some of the resources that are available. And we also heard a lot of interest in improved transit reliability, frequency integration, and improving our active transportation network. So as you all know, there's a lot also going on in this area through mascots and transit integration work and local short-range transit planning. So we called some of that out in the plan and provided links to connect those dots. And added additional information on first, last mile and active transportation improvements as well. So finally, just to wrap this up, we did hear about concerns with congestion in major travel corridors like Highway 37 and Highway 12. So the CTP does include many projects that are working to improve travel in these corridors and reduce travel demand and congestion across the board. And then also requests for clear GHG reduction strategies, electrification, grid capacity, and getting ready for emerging technologies. So we added a lot of additional information in there. I'd like to thank Jerry Glazer for the information on electrification. So we were able to incorporate some of that. So that was very helpful. And so we'll continue to build that out in future plans as well. Almost wrapped up. So I mentioned we're going to be working on near-term implementation as well. So we're working on scoring projects through the SCTCA funding program cycle 2. That scoring will be complete sometime later this year. We'll go ahead and look at those recommended priority projects and funding for the next 5 to 10 years, and also make some policy recommendations. So we'll be working on that after that scoring process and prioritization is done, and do some policy work on that as well. So with that, I'll go ahead and wrap up. As I said, the final pretty draft will be available in a week or so. So we'll make sure and get the word out once that's available to download and view. So with that, I'll go ahead and wrap things up. And Chair, I see that Jerry has his hand raised.
Yeah. Great job, Chris. Jerry?
And let me get out of mute. First of all, Chris, thanks for the section on e-bikes. I gotten really concerned about that because I'm starting to see what are obviously scooters, and kids are riding them and they don't have driver's licenses. So a lot of education required in that. I was glad to see the focus now for an action-oriented plan. That's really good, and the focus on transit. I like seeing the emphasis on that. Recently, I attended the MIT Mobility Forum, and they had more information on-street charging for high-density housing, for multifamily housing, new kinds of plans, and I'd love to share that at some point in time. If we can get some information from some of those companies doing that in New York, and they're starting to do it in San Francisco right now too. One thing I didn't understand, there's one slide, and it's a slide that starts with support for CTP vision, and it talks about concerns that we aren't doing enough to reduce transportation-related GHG emissions, and then concerns that GHG reduction goals would distract us from improving and preserving roadway. Those seem to be conflicting with each other. Is that why they're on the deck?
Yeah, and there are a variety of opinions and viewpoints across the county, right? So we heard kind of both sides of that issue specifically, and we're doing some in a little of each area. Each jurisdiction does have a road maintenance project in the plan, so that is a focus. It's a very important piece of the plan, but one of our major goals is GHG reduction, so we're definitely leaning in there too. So yeah.
Mark, quick question about a few weeks from now, if the CTP is published, how will we have access to it early to see that?
So we're putting that together to we'll actually release it as part of our board agenda packet, so that'll be adopted by them in June. So we'll make sure as soon as that's ready and on the website, we'll make sure the CAC has a link to that.
Great.
Yeah.
Tom?
Thanks, Chris. And I've threatened to send you comments. I never did send you any written comments, so I'll try to reiterate some of the things I perhaps said before. It's not our local fault that the Plan Bay Area 2050 Plus uses some extremely unrealistic economic and population projections. We are obligated to comply with those, but I did do a little extra research and was kind of surprised to find that the Bay Area is using some assumptions in their forecasting and modeling report. They're assuming that we will implement statewide guaranteed income to be able to keep these economic projections on track. And that we will also be providing means-based financial support for seismic, wildfire, and accessible home retrofits. And they're basically forecasting that while we have construction benefits from mitigating sea level rise increases, there's no corresponding costs coming off of perhaps areas that can't be mitigated. As you may know, I know that you guys know this, the state and this region have been decreasing in population. That's our observed trend. And the reality is we are forecasting in this CTP plan a 13% housing growth and a 24% jobs growth. If you just take that by itself, we're expecting the jobs housing imbalance to get worse over the course of this plan. So anybody that thinks that these are sort of reasonable projections, we need some very substantial economic development to be able to hit these goals. And I do not see that in anyone's creative crystal balls looking forward. So I am hoping that people will pay attention to that and we'll adjust our expectations accordingly, because I don't think it's reasonable to have these pie in the sky population growth estimates. And I'm not expecting, Chris, that you take responsibility for that in this transportation plan, but it's a very big issue for all of us in economic development. The other thing, to Jerry's points earlier, I know that there's known methods of transportation demand management is probably the most cost-effective way to hit our greenhouse gas goals. We know that we just don't have the political support for that right now. But that I didn't see a lot of talk about that in the plan, and it's something that I hope we'll be able to pay more attention to over the next couple of years.
Can you repeat the housing numbers you mentioned and the population?
Yeah, this was in Chris's report to the board last time on this, and he showed us this slide as well. He has a histogram in the PowerPoint presentation from the board of directors, March 9, slide number 12. And it basically shows, this is direct from Plan Bay Area 2050, that our housing will grow 25,000 units to 13% more than it is in the baseline year. I think it's 2023 or something. And the jobs will grow from an additional 52,000 jobs, or 24% by 2050. So there's this idea that we'll continue to grow the economic pie, and yet we know we're not forecasting anywhere near enough houses to support that population.
Yeah, and it doesn't take into account the population decline that it looks like it's trending towards, Medtronic's leaving and others.
Yeah, and in our city of Sonoma, we've just launched in our Climate Action Commission an adaptation committee. And one of the things we're looking at is, yes, we have the local hazard mitigation plan, the multi-jurisdiction one that Sonoma City is part of countywide, but these are primarily focused on qualifying for FEMA grant monies. The concern is that we may not be broad enough in our thinking about our preparedness for the future. And the population decline is an observed trend that we seem to be in denial about in our official planning documents, Bay Area wide.
Yeah.
Chris, is that within your purvey to?
I can definitely comment on that. Yeah, and
yeah,
I can make it pretty quick too. Thanks for bringing that up. The regional forecast is predicting in the order of 25,000 housing units and around 50,000 new jobs by 2050. As part of the CTP, if you dig into the performance assessment chapter and look in the appendices, we did test a no growth future as well. So we're definitely following the current trend and patterns, and Department of Finance is also looking at, flat to no growth for the county going forward. So we're definitely tracking that and keeping that in mind.
Thank you, Harris.
Thanks.
Yeah, this connects up with a little bit with what I was poking at the folks from public infrastructure. If we're making we're designing our infrastructure based on some prediction of what's going to happen, but the prediction models are wrong, right? We're building more. We already know that widening roads and building more streets doesn't reduce congestion, right? Because it creates more demand. But if we're planning for that there's going to be more people than maybe there's going to be, and that we're expecting that they're all going to be driving, even though we're trying to get people to drive less, we're creating what we don't want, right? I mean, if we want to get our greenhouse gas emissions down and we want to get people using other forms of transportation, why are we designing for more people driving more instead of designing for what we want rather than what we think we should do?
All right.
Yeah, I can just thank you, Eric, so much for that. I'd just say, as long as I've been at the agency, there's been a shift in that direction for sure. Great. So some positive momentum in that direction.
Most definitely, Chris. We all noticed that.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Yep. Thank you all.
All right. Any announcements?
Very short one. Day after tomorrow, Wednesday night, Bike Shorts Film Festival at the Rialto Cinemas. Benefit for the Bike Coalition, $20 a ticket, 3 different documentaries that are very wonderful. So come on out and see a movie.
Tuesday, tomorrow.
No, Wednesday. Day after tomorrow.
Wilson.
I have a question, not an announcement. When we fund a project through Measure M or Go Sonoma, do we require any matching from local agencies?
David, you still there?
So I'll chime in. I'll let Shauna fill in if I miss anything. So it really depends on the funding source. So there are various Measure M programs, such as the Highway 101 program and bicycle pedestrian, rail, transit. There wasn't a specific match requirement identified in the measure. For the local streets and roads program of Measure M, there is a 50-50 match requirement. For Go Sonoma, generally for the competitive programs, there is a 15% local match requirement. That is 15, not 50. And then if I've missed anything, I'll turn it over to Shauna.
Okay. Shauna, did you have something else?
I don't have anything to add.
Where's my gavel? We're adjourned.
I was just going to make
Oh,
a
David
comment.
has
The
something.
thing I was going to comment about earlier is there used to be 2 railroad right-of-ways up through Sonoma Valley. And we see how letting railroad right-of-ways go away causes a problem later. I mean, this Arnold Drive stuff could be avoided if we still had railroad right-of-ways.
Yeah.
And
Some great points at this meeting tonight. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. We're adjourned.